In this video, we're going to look at barriers to marketing planning. In fact, there are 10 barriers, but we're going to look at just 3 of the barriers in this video, and we'll look at the remainder in a separate video, simply to try and cut down the size of the video file. So let's start by looking at marketing planning. Marketing planning is a process organisations use to assess marketing objectives and make plans to achieve these objectives. So marketing planning is simply a process of trying to look at what is required in terms of its marketing strategy and its presentation in the market, and its ability to recognise customer requirements and satisfy those requirements. So it makes plans to achieve the objectives. It recognises them and it makes plans to achieve those objectives. The process is a logical sequence of activities. Management, employees, staff members generally, stakeholders, they all contribute to the development of the objectives. They all may have certain inputs to make and recommendations and comments and also information. They may hold information about the product or about their perceptions of the market and may feed into the whole process. Clearly it recognises the importance of the marketing department and the expertise of the marketing department in determining customer wants and the size of the market and the best positioning of the product within the market to meet the company objectives. But other members of the company may have an input, may have some contribution to make also. Marketing planning is a complex exercise, and there are many barriers that need to be taken into consideration. Marketing planning is not a straightforward activity. There are barriers, there are problems when we attempt to construct marketing plans. There are issues to be considered, and that's really what we're going to focus in on. So first of all, the importance of marketing planning. Well, marketing planning is essential for the following reasons. To identify the target market, that's clearly important. If the company doesn't identify its target market, then it's drifting, it's aimless. So it must identify its target markets. It must plan and devise short-term and long-term marketing strategies to enter those markets and be successful in its efforts within the markets. So it must have short-term and long-term strategies to enable it to be successful. Identifies the business as a whole, and marketing is central to customer satisfaction. So it's important that the marketing plan identifies the business as a whole, looks at the whole operation and looks at the product, the innovation, the personnel within the business, the skills, the aptitudes, the production facilities, the distribution, looks at all of that. And all of that feeds into the marketing plan, because the marketing plan can only be based on the resources that are available to the business. It can't make claims that it can't support. So it's important that the marketing plan is realistic given the resources of the business. But the marketing plan should identify specifically the customer requirements and attempt to address those. The marketing plan should identify and allocate resources and assess the organisational capabilities. As I said, it's important that the plan recognises clearly what the resources are and not make elaborate claims that it can't substantiate. It's important to be realistic. Really, this effort is about identifying customer requirements and seeing if the business can produce products or services that can address those needs and therefore have a product to market and achieve some sales. Organisations can measure progress and outcomes. So it's important that the companies can look at where they are now and look where they want to be in 6 months' time, let's say. So they have some sort of benchmark. They've set up a benchmark for themselves, and then they can measure their progress towards achieving that. That can look at the outcomes of their activities, look at the outcomes of all the activities of the business, including marketing, and seeing to what extent they have achieved what they set out to achieve. But the marketing plan, it promotes direction and responsibilities. That's very important. The marketing plan gives the business direction. Without it, the business will drift. It's not quite sure what it's aiming at, which market it's aiming at, which segment of the market, which customers. It's drifting. So it must have direction. And the marketing plan gives it direction, and also gives the people who are associated with the marketing plan responsibilities. The responsibility to achieve the set targets. Now, the barriers to marketing planning. Well, McDonald identifies 10 barriers to marketing planning, and as I said, we're only going to deal with 3 here in this video. The remainder will be looked at in a separate video. The 10, and I'll run through the 10 quickly and then we'll talk about them in a bit more detail. Confusion between tactics and strategy. Isolating the marketing function from operations. The ability to separate out the two functions. Confusion between the marketing function and the marketing concept. We need to talk about that. Organisational barriers. Lack of in-depth analysis. Confusion between process and output. Lack of knowledge and skills. Lack of a systematic approach to marketing planning, failure to prioritize objectives, and a hostile corporate culture. Now, these are the 10 barriers that McDonald identified. As I said, we're only going to deal with the first 3 here, so we're only going to look at the first 3. The remaining ones will be the subject matter of a follow-up video. So let's start by looking at, for a start, the first one, which is confusion between tactics and strategy, and then we'll work on to number 2 and number 3. So confusion between tactics and strategy. Well, confusion about marketing terminology stands as a barrier to effective marketing planning in organizations. Marketing terminology is important. It's important that everyone understands precisely what the wording means, what the terminology means. It's important that there is clarity in the marketing department about the product, about the capability of the product, about the segment of the market they're operating in, about the characteristics of the market. There needs to be clarity all the way through, so that with clear thinking, the organization will have a better focus and will be able to make more progress. The last thing the business needs are for, let's say, marketing personnel to start to contradict each other or to trip each other up or make mistakes because they're confused about which bit or what is required of them or which bit of the market they're looking at. Or there needs to be clarity. There needs to be precision in thinking, so that all of the marketing team, and for that matter all of the business, are able to point in the same direction. There's no confusion. Organizations' approach and behavior towards marketing planning plays a significant role in its effectiveness. So it's important that the marketing plan be put in place, because the marketing plan is what's going to drive the effectiveness of the business in total. Once the marketing plan is in place, and that's the product, as I said earlier, of clear thinking and good research and so on. If it's in place, then the rest of the business knows what it must do. It must produce products of a certain characteristic in line with the claims that are being made in the marketing plan. It must deliver those products at a certain time, and the quality of the products must be of a certain standard. So in other words, all of the aspects of the business will flow from the marketing planning process. Very few organizations are able to distinguish between strategic, which is long-term marketing, and tactical, short-term marketing, and that's a problem. Sometimes they can't because of the nature of the market and the nature of the product they're selling. They're not quite sure if this product is going to last for quite a while in the market, or it depends on perhaps even the phase of the product life cycle. Whereabouts is the product in that? So there might be some question marks about whether we're talking about strategic, long-term, or tactical, short-term marketing. But there's a need to have some sort of idea about whether the plan will be implemented over a long period of time or over a short period of time, and what it is that the plan's trying to do precisely. But trying to get a fix on the difference between long-term and short-term can be a problem. How long is the long-term? How short is the short-term? Due to globalisation and the increasing competition in markets and industry has put a greater emphasis on the need to extrapolate strategic plans. And that's really what happens. When a strategic plan is put in place, let's say a long-term strategic plan, a long-term plan, marketing plan is put in place, if it works in a given situation, it tends to be moved into a different market, into even a different country, and tried implementing there, which can be a disaster because there are different cultures in play, different requirements, different markets. Even the product itself may need adjusting to suit the requirements of different markets. But taking the strategic, say, marketing plan, even domestically, even in one market, there is a temptation to roll it over. That if it worked in the past, well, let's just carry it forward. It worked in the past, therefore it will work in the future. Well, that's not the world in which we live in. The world in which we live in is one typified by dynamic change, by innovation, by greater customer awareness, increasing customer sophistication, greater requirements in the market, and customer needs must be met. The role of the marketing department is much more complex. So simply rolling over an existing plan into the future is not an option either. Most organizations put emphasis on tactical, short-term marketing plans and fail to set strategic long-term marketing. The short-term, companies can imagine what the market will be like in a year's time or 6 months' time. They can use their experience to make simple projections and say, well, the market will grow by this much and we'll have seasonal factors cutting in the future and whatever. So it can see short run. It's difficult to see the market in 5 years' time. Particularly in situations, as I just said, where markets are changing so rapidly and customer requirements are changing so rapidly. So a lot of companies will go for the safer option of looking at the short run and trying to implement their policies so as to achieve targets in the short run. Their policies are short run policies. Long run, difficult. But having said that, the importance of strategic marketing is crucial because that's what's going to set the long run trend for the business. That's where the business wants to be in 5 years' time, let's say. It's important that it must have some objective. It must be aiming to achieve something in the long run. Its position in the market, the type of product it makes, its reputation, its brand image, and so on. So it must be aiming towards long term as well. So there is a tension between short and long term planning horizons. Generally speaking, the tactical orientation could be quite short, dealing with as I said, the tactical, dealing with the short run, dealing with what is here and now. And this can affect everybody. The board of directors, the senior management, middle management, the operations, all of them may be committed towards looking at trying to achieve the next 6 months, try to achieve the next month, the next whatever. So that's really their focus. And the strategic one, that's aspirational. That's what they would like to see in the long run. But they're confused about what to do about it because the world is changing so rapidly. They feel that investments, long-term investments now, it's difficult to know what the return on those investments will be, particularly because technology is changing as well, and investments now may be outdated before they get a decent return. But really, the focus on strategic marketing is to expand the strategic zone. But this, of course, cuts down the orientation, the significance played to the tactical, to the here and now. There's more long-term planning, long-term implementation, trying to build up marketing relationships that will stretch into the future, talking to people in the market and building up relationships with them so that there's a long-term presence. But that will sap the energy from the short term. So there is a trade-off. Effective marketing planning requires the development of strategic planning before technical planning. And that's the problem. The strategical planning should start the whole process. The company should really try to identify where it wants to be in 5 years' time, let's say, and then put into place its tactical, how it's going to deal with the next 6 months. And the tactical is fitting within the strategic. The strategic is the long run. It encompasses the short run. It encompasses all of the short runs, in fact. But it would be wrong to start with the short run and try to build up to the strategic, because it's better to have a fixed sight into the future and then trying to achieve tactical benchmarks along the way. Strategic planning ensures that organizations can scan their external environment and put measures into place to overcome any barriers. So strategic is looking at the environment, it's looking at the whole the pestle environment. It's looking at the political landscape, the economic, the social, the technological, the legal, the environmental. It's looking at all of these factors and trying to see where will it position itself, how can it best position itself in all of those, with all of those factors in mind. Strategic planning requires all level of management involvement, and it requires, let's say, a 3 to 5 year plan. So all of the management, the production management should be involved and say, can you deliver this product over the next 5 years, and what sort of technology will you require, and what sort of changes will this necessitate, given what you know now of the market. What can you envisage? The marketing people are involved because they know what the market potential is, but they also know the threats on the market, the competitors, the globalisation factors. So all of the various departments, not just production and marketing, but all of them, the HR department, what sort of labour is going to be available, what sort of succession planning have we in place. People will leave the organisation, will retire, or just leave because they're moving house or moving location. What sort of personnel do we need? What sort of training programs will we need stretching into the future? What sort of skills and competencies do we want our workers to have? So all of the departments should be involved in the strategic planning phase. And once that is put in place, then the more tactical planning, marketing planning, can be derived from it. Tactical planning requires, let's say, a 1-year marketing plan. And this is, if you like, extrapolated. It's pulled out of, it's moved out of the strategic marketing planning. So tactical planning should be, in a sense, based on the strategic one. Strategic one is where the business wants to be, long run. Tactical, short run, but fits within the umbrella of the strategic. Isolating the marketing function from operations. A common mistake made by organisations is the belief that marketing is a standalone function. The idea that marketing is done in the office. That's a common mistake. Marketing does not stand alone from the other functions or the other functions in the business. Marketing is dependent upon the other functions, but also gives the other functions direction. Which way is the business moving? What's happening in the market? What are customers saying? What are their requirements? How well does the product, as we've got it at the moment, fulfill customer expectations? How easy is it to sell the product? What's the price of the product? And this involves all of the departments, because all of them are involved in producing the product. But they must be producing the right product, and the right product is what should be identified by the marketing section and fed into the planning framework, so that the product, the company is up to date with its design and with the functionality of its product. There are issues within the business that don't necessarily involve the marketing as a frontline activity. I mean, the efficiency of the business. Let's say it's producing something, a product. The efficiency of the production process may not involve marketing, but it may involve marketing insofar as the pricing of the products involved. Because obviously the cheaper the product is to produce, the more competitive it can be in the marketplace. Chief executives need to see the need for marketing planning. Often the process is seen as a time-consuming task which requires an organisational restructure. It's important that marketing planning is supported all the way from the top, from the chief executive right throughout the organisation, and its significance and importance is understood, because that's what gives the organisation, as I said before, that's what gives it a sense of direction. That's what gives it a sense of purpose almost. That's what drives its activities to achieve the marketing plan. So it's clearly the case that the whole development of the marketing plan should be supported throughout the organisation, and various viewpoints are fed in and discussed and debated, and expertise, the expertise of the various departments is tapped, so that as wide a possible spectrum of opinion as possible is a part of the marketing planning process, and in that way a good marketing plan can be developed, one which will yield results. Organisations need to centre the marketing function around all operations as close as possible to the customer. So the marketing section will be dealing with the customer and the customer requirements and the trends in the markets. So it's important that they at all times keep in touch with the various departments within the business and inform the various heads and senior management of what's happening in the market, so that remedial action may be taken if required. If something is going wrong, it can be fixed. It can be fixed fast, speedily, so that it doesn't get out of hand and damage the reputation of the business or of the product. Confusion between marketing function and the marketing concept. There is a widespread ignorance concerning the concept of marketing. The most common misconceptions that exist among senior management is this distinction between the marketing concept and the marketing function. Confusion with sales, for example. It's often felt that marketing deals with selling, That's the marketing function, selling the product. In fact, we know that marketing is dealing with customers, customer satisfaction, after sales service, informing the customer of the product, matching the product to the customer needs precisely, being involved perhaps with the customer in looking at the product and discussing the suitability of the product for the customer's requirements. It's a much wider task. It's external to the business in the sense that the marketing department are dealing on a day-to-day basis with people outside of the organization. The end function could be to generate more sales and a better reputation for the business, but it doesn't go out to make the sales. It goes out to develop the market so that it's got long-term sustainability in the market. There's also this idea that they're going to manage the product. Well, certainly to look after the product when it goes out for sale, but they're doing it through cooperation with the new owners of the product. Perhaps the people who have purchased the product are trying to sell it on to final customers. They will work with those. They will give them advice and give them their experience and be involved with them. But that also is feeding back into the goodwill of the business, because the customers of the product now will feel that they're not just left alone, left to their own devices, abandoned. They have somewhere to turn. They can seek advice and recommendations and support. There's a confusion with advertising. People think that marketing is just advertising. Well, the marketing section will certainly want to portray the image of the business and want to project the image of the business. But they don't sit around drawing up cartoons or drawing up proposals for videos which are going to go onto television or that sort of thing. They spend their time looking at the requirements of the customer and trying to match the requirements of the customer to the product that they're selling and trying to get that message across. Now, they may get the message across by word of mouth, by visiting the person. They may get it across by using billboards, which is advertising, or television, or advertisements in trade manuals or in magazines, or whatever method they deem appropriate. But what they're really doing is informing the buyer of the advantages of this product. If it's a sale to the final customer, then they may wish to emphasize the more aesthetic nature of the product, the attractiveness of the product in terms of design and functionality and desirability. But in selling to intermediaries, they will be concerned with the concerns of the intermediaries, the warehouses or the retailers or whoever it is who's buying it on to sell it to the final customer. They will be concerned with their concerns. The marketing department will be involved with them in trying to develop appropriate strategies for moving the product, for selling the product on. So there's not a great emphasis in that sense on advertising. There's also a confusion with customer service, that some people think that that's what marketing do. They deal with customers and customer service. That's a function. That's a part of the routines of the marketing department. But it's much more complex again. It's dealing with the trends in the market, looking at the developments of the market, looking at the product design and functionality, looking at the price, looking at the segment of the market it operates in, looking at disposable income within the sector, and trying to match all of this, trying to get a balance and a view as to what is the most effective set of strategies to enhance the image of the product and of the business in the market. Dealing with customers is part of that. It projects a positive attitude towards customers and a feeling amongst customers that it's a good company that has got backup and support. But there are many other functions associated with the marketing department. Confusion with sales. Well, marketing is seen as separate from sales function. In fact, both sales and marketing work alongside each other. The sales function is really related to marketing. Marketing can feed back what the market wants and inform the sales department that these areas need attention, and this is what the characteristics of that particular segment is, and so on. So the sales function, the sales personnel will have more information to work on and can draw on the expertise of the marketing section. The belief that success is only based on producing a good product. The push towards marketing is seen as unnecessary, one of the main reasons why businesses go bankrupt. The belief that success is based on producing a good product. Well, the product has to be good, but it has to be also presented in the market. It has to be produced and delivered to the market in a way that the market wants. It must address customer requirements, and the customer requirements must be identified. Producing a good product is all very fine, but if the product doesn't address customer requirements, it just simply remains a good product that nobody wants. It must address the customer requirements. And if the belief is that if a product is very good, then there's no marketing required. Well, clearly that's not the case. Marketing identify the requirements, the customer requirements. And marketing builds up information about the customer, about the segmented market, about the functionality that the product should have, its design, what the competitors are doing. There's a whole range of data collecting activities that the marketing section must engage in order to get a complete picture of what's facing the company. And then it may brief sales and production and the different departments as to what's required, and they may then spring into action to try and use that information to their advantage. In the absence of that information, businesses are running the risk of going out of business, ceasing trading. There's as I said earlier, there's a confusion with advertising. Advertising campaigns must deliver what they promise. Advertising must work alongside the marketing function. Investing in marketing expenditure is not a solution to tackle deep-rooted marketing problems. If the product is not addressing customer needs, then marketing the product will be wasting money. It's a waste of resource. They're marketing a product that's not suitable to the customer. Well, that's bordering on silly. So advertising must deliver what they promise, and what they promise is meeting customer requirements. But customer requirements have to be determined by the marketing department. That's their job, to see what the customers want, see what the trends in the market, see what the competitors are doing. Look at the product, look at it critically, look at its functionality and its attributes and its design and its price, and look at all of this and feed it back so that the company produces a relevant product which can then be advertised and which will then deliver what is being promised. Confusion with market service, customer service. Again, as I said earlier, the belief customer service is key. However, organisations need to deliver what they promise. For example, British Rail, it's nice to be treated nicely, but it is more important to arrive at the destination on time. Now, with British Rail, it's nice to be treated well, but it's also nice to arrive on time. So what's the core of the product? The product is getting travellers to their destination in a timely manner. They may have further connections to make or businesses to attend, or they have obligations at the other end and they expect to be there at a certain time. So being dealt with by nice people full of smiles and nice facilities on the train is fine. Now, of course, British Rail has, in a sense, come and gone and has been replaced by many other companies. But still, the need is to get customers there on time, according to what it states. Customer service is identifying customer requirements. And the customers may have a highly complex set of requirements, not just good value for money, but quality requirements, functionality, it must look good, good design, delivered on time. They may have a whole range, depending on the nature of the product, of requirements. These have to be met and identified by the marketing department and then met. And if there are issues about the product afterwards, then the customer service team will spring into action. And they must be efficient and fit in with the overall ethos of good quality, efficient and friendly advice and meeting with the consumer, with the buyer. So confusion with customer service. Marketing should be placed at the center of the organisational activity. It's marketing that determines what's going to be sold, the price, the product, and so on, all its attributes, like I've been saying. So it's important that marketing is at the center of the organisational activity. Marketing is seen as a management process where all the resources are invested in meeting the needs of customers and organisational objectives. Marketing should certainly influence what's been made. It should determine what's been made, the designs and so on, everything to do with the product, because it's marketing who will have determined what the customer's needs are. It's marketing who will know what the competitors are doing. It's marketing who should have some idea about the trends in the market and the future course of the market. So they should be involved in many aspects of the business, from advising on future investment projects and different types of technology to the current production schema and how the products are produced at the end and the quality and so on. There are roles for the other departments, roles about the efficiency of the business. So the production department should look after the efficiency of production and should adopt policies that try to improve the efficiency of the business, perhaps total quality management or some sort of process, set of processes that minimize handling of the product or as it goes through the various production stages. Whatever. But the point is, production should be looking at efficiency. And the HR department should look at people and ensuring the welfare of the people, but also ensuring that they've got the skills necessary to do the jobs efficiently and offer appropriate training programs. So there are roles for all the various departments. But really it falls to marketing as the one who should influence research and development and look into the development of products that will match customer needs as time goes on. As I said, this is the first 3 out of 10 looking at problems and issues associated with marketing planning. This is the first 3. There's another video to come on this topic, but I'm going to leave this one here at the moment and say thank you for watching.